Information fueled.
Opinion driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
5:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 89.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. How are you? Welcome on in to your Wednesday, January 15th. I got to tell you, Pete Hegseth was amazing yesterday. Now, I know that I'm a Trump supporter. I know that I've spoken previously about how I am a fan of Pete Hegseth. Clearly, he's not a perfect person. None of us are. But I thought that and I don't know if this is a sexist term, but the haranguing with all of these senators, you got Senator Elizabeth Warren, you've got Hirono, you've got Senator Duckworth, and I don't know who the other one is. But it was like clear what their mission was, what the Democrats' mission was that they were going to get all of their female senators, the Democrats, to go after Pete Hegseth because they see him as, you know, somebody who allegedly raped a woman, all of these other things. And so that was one of the plans for the Democrats. Have the women go after Pete Hegseth. And that's clearly what they did. And he was fine. He handled it perfectly well because do you know what his preparation for this was? Dude has had bullets shot at him. And so this was like nothing. But you listen to the audio. And you listen to him as he patiently answered the questions, the haranguing from all of these female senators on the Democrat side. And I got to tell you, he was very patient, had the patience of Job, and he answered their questions, including from Elizabeth Warren. She was incredibly aggressive. Now, she brought up, of course, his past statements about women in combat roles, and she listed several instances where he spoke about that issue.
January 2013, you told a Fox News interviewer that women in the military simply couldn't measure up to men in the military, saying that allowing women to serve in combat roles would force the military to lower the bar. You picked up on that same theme in 2015, making remarks on Fox News, referring to women in combat as, quote, it would erode standards. 10 weeks ago, you appeared on the Sean Ryan show and said, I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles.
So that was a few instances that Elizabeth Warren brought up. And Hegseth, he responds that he was talking about the issue of lowering standards for women in those combat roles. And the point that he has been trying to make is that the military, and particularly the Army, did lower some standards for women when it came to lifting requirements and running events. I mean, that's just a fact. That is just a part of history, and the military right now is they did lower some standards. And so that's what he's been talking about. And what he is saying is that the standards were lowered and that impacted military readiness. And so, no, we can't have women in the military in these combat roles. That's his point. But her point, Elizabeth Warren, her point is that, according to her, Hegseth suddenly changed his mind on women in the military.
And then, on November 9th, 2024, just 32 days after your last public comment saying that women absolutely should not be in combat, you declared that, quote, some of our greatest warriors are women, and you support having them serve in combat. Now, that is a very, very big about face in a very, very short period of time. So help me understand, Mr. Hegseth, what extraordinary event happened in that 32-day period that made you change the core values you had expressed for the preceding 12 years?
Gotta love that tone. Gotta love Elizabeth Warren's tone. Hateful, nasty, vitriolic. And again, you can tell in the questioning, he's like, I don't know how many different times or how many different ways that I can say it, but it was about lowering the standards.
For me, this issue has always been about standards. And unfortunately, because of some of the people that have been in political power for the last 4 years, priorities other than standards, lethality, and meritocracy.
I mean, good Lord. What does he have to do? Send her the answers in smoke signals?
You got a nomination from President Trump. Now, I've heard of deathbed conversions, but this is the first time I've heard of a nomination conversion. And I hope you understand that many women serving in the military right now might think that if you can convert so rapidly your long-held and aggressively pursued views in just 32 days, that 32 days after you get confirmed, maybe you'll just reverse those views and go back to the old guy who said straight up, women do not belong in combat.
So a couple of things. Number one, trust me when I know Republicans do the same thing. I mean, part of, and we're going to speak to Brian Wilson coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, 7:06, about past confirmation hearings. I've been doing talk radio and news for many, many, many years. I know how this works. Most of those Democrats, if not all of those Democrats, know that Pete Hegseth is going to be confirmed. And that's a good thing. But they have to get their licks in, because what the Democrats need to do is they want to belittle this guy as much as they possibly can and denigrate him in the public eye. They're also trying to push him to do something stupid. That's the other thing. They want this moment where they can push him to say something or do something that would cost him the nomination. But part of what she's doing here is she's accusing Hegseth of lying. But I will also say that it's a fair line of questioning, because he has said that women don't belong in the military, and that is a legit debate. And so even though I really hate her tone, I hate the belittling, it is a legit conversation to have. The standards have been lowered. And he has said in the past that women don't belong in combat positions. And they have talked about, and they have spoken about in these interviews, various interviews over the years, those lowering of standards. So asking him to clarify the stance is fine. The belittling is irritating, but he's a big boy. Pete Hegseth has faced a lot worse than Elizabeth Warren. And so I will say that the soapbox antics that we always see in these confirmation hearings from both sides, it just gets a little old. But I thought that Hegseth handled it really, really well. Ultimately, the question was asked, will you allow women in combat roles as defense secretary if you are confirmed? That answer is coming up next. It is 5:15 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Welcome on into your Wednesday, January 15th. It's cold. Let's check the roads on WTN.
Things are looking good on 2440. Also looking fine this morning as you're traveling in. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. Weather today, a high of 39. And the weather person earlier said that it's going to be really cold at 39. I don't think 39 is all that cold. Do you think 39 is all that cold, Joan?
No.
I don't think 39 is cold.
But they're talking about the temperatures going down into like the low teens within the next couple of days.
Yeah, no, that's cold.
Yeah,
39 isn't all that
wicked.
cold, but
No,
down into the.
no big deal.
Did you say wicked?
I did.
Your East Coast is coming out, Joan.
It is. I'm sorry.
It's going to be wicked cold.
I'm not actually from that area. That's like
Boston,
right?
Yeah, that's a. You ever want to get Chris Hand going?
Yeah.
Just, see if you can drag him into talking about how, Biden wicked sucks and how Trump is wicked cool. You can prod him to do that. I'll see if I could do that at 8:35 when Chris joins us.
All right, I'll remind you so you don't forget.
Very good, because we all know that I have no memory. All right, 5:16 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So all the soapboxing going on yesterday at the confirmation hearings for Pete Hegseth, always fun, because the senators are always on that soapbox, oftentimes making statements versus simply asking questions. But Hegseth, he had some great moments. He was asked, bottom line, from Joni Ernst, because, we weren't so sure about Joni Ernst. She has now come out and said that she will approve or vote to approve Pete Hegseth. She will vote to confirm Hegseth. But this is that moment where she more than likely made her decision when she asked Hegseth, will you allow women in combat roles?
As Secretary of Defense, will you support women continuing to have the opportunity to serve in combat roles?
Senator, first of all, thank you for your service, as we discussed extensively as well.
It's my privilege.
And my answer is yes, exactly the way that you caveated it. Yes, women will have access to ground combat roles, given the standards remain high, and we'll have a review to ensure the standards have not been eroded in any one of these cases. That'll be part of one of the first things we do at the Pentagon is reviewing that in a gender-neutral way, the standards, ensuring readiness and meritocracy is front and center. But absolutely, it would be the privilege of a lifetime if confirmed, to be the Secretary of Defense for all men and women in uniform who fight so heroic. They have so many other options. They decide to put their right hand up for our country, and it would be an honor to have a chance to lead them.
Bingo. I think he's going to be confirmed. I think most people, Joan, I don't really pay much attention to analysts and all that, but from what I can tell and from what I've heard, most people are saying that Pete Hegseth is clearly going to be confirmed. Is that what you're seeing too, or no?
I did. Well, and I judge by the headlines. So when I read the headlines, it's all about his path forward looks a little more clear, things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of positive talk on his side. So I think he did a really good job yesterday too. Did you play the Elizabeth Warren when he did the gotcha at the end?
Remind me what it was.
When she started talking about generals.
No.
Do you have that audio?
We'll play it at 5:35.
Okay.
Because why didn't I had it and I didn't pull it.
I think I know why.
My favorite moment.
Why do you know? Why do you think?
Because her voice is like nails on a chalkboard and you couldn't take it anymore.
I couldn't take it anymore. No, let's play that at 5:35.
And can I
KGB, if you can find that.
Can I give you some creds here?
Yeah.
You had a great line that you glossed over earlier in your monologue.
What was that?
You said, good Lord, what's he supposed to do? Send it to her in smoke signals? That made me chuckle. I was chuckling. The microphone wasn't even open and I was chuckling.
I got a Joan chuckle at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I will tell you that's kind of hard.
Yep, it is.
Actually. I thought that his opening monologue, Pete Hegseth's opening monologue, was one of the absolute best opening monologues that I've heard. And you could say, well, he's a TV presenter and he's extremely well-spoken. I don't think it's that. I think that with Pete Hegseth, there is a sincerity about him.
There's passion.
There is a patriotism and a passion for the military and for the men and women on the ground. And I think that's the difference between Pete Hegseth and all of these other, generals that come in. They've got their uniforms on and they've got all the patches and all that kind of stuff and the medals. I think Hegseth goes in and it is his sincerity. I mean, look, we've had, and I'm going to get into all this, but, we've had the generals. Particularly, obviously, during the Biden administration, we've had a general as a defense secretary, and it's complete and utter train wreck, is what it's been. And so I have absolutely no problem with his resume. We'll get into all of that and a whole lot more. Also, is it Mazie Hirono? Is that the senator from Hawaii?
Mazie.
Yeah. I think she was drunk. Like, I do. I think she was drunk. I'm going to play the audio coming up right before the news because she was accusing Pete Hegseth of being a drunk. But she herself said, has she had, I should have done this off the air. Has she had like a stroke or anything?
Not that I know of.
So she's just plain stupid.
She's always that way. She always has that tone.
Okay.
She's very dismissive of anybody who doesn't believe like her.
All right. So we're gonna play the audio of Mazie, whatever. Who cares? Hirono, Senator Hirono. This is actually my favorite audio of the day. That is coming up before the news, 5:21, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.